August 23, 1942. Stalingrad, Soviet Union. As the morning sun rises over the Volga River, thousands of German soldiers prepare to enter what they believe will be another conquered city. Behind them stands the most powerful army in Europe. Ahead of them lies a city carrying one man's name, Stalin. German officers expect fierce resistance, but they also believe victory is only days away. What they cannot know is that they are marching into the deadliest battle in human history. By the time it is over, more than 2 million soldiers and civilians will be dead, wounded, or missing. Entire armies will vanish. Streets will disappear beneath mountains of rubble, and the Third Reich will suffer a defeat from which it will never fully recover. To understand why Stalingrad became so important, you have to understand Hitler's plan for 1942. After failing to capture Moscow the previous winter, Germany shifted its attention south. Hitler wanted the oil fields of the Caucasus to fuel his war machine, and believed capturing Stalingrad would protect his northern flank while cutting Soviet supply routes along the Volga River. There was also symbolism. Taking the city named after Joseph Stalin would be a massive political victory. Hitler became obsessed with it. What had begun as a strategic objective slowly became a personal battle between two dictators who refused to give an inch. The attack began with terrifying force. On August 23rd, the German Luftwaffe unleashed one of the most devastating bombing raids of the war. Thousands of bombs crashed into homes, factories, hospitals, and schools. Fires spread across the city until entire districts became seas of flames. Tens of thousands of civilians were killed within hours. German commanders believed the destruction had broken Stalingrad's defenses. Instead, it transformed the city into the perfect battlefield for the Soviet army. Every collapsed building became a fortress. Every basement became a bunker. Every pile of shattered bricks became another place to hide a machine gun. Pause for a second. Imagine fighting inside a city where there are no front lines. The enemy could be above you, below you, behind the next wall, or hiding in the floor beneath your feet. A battle that should have lasted days turns into months because every single building becomes a separate war. Soldiers stop measuring progress in kilometers. They measure it in rooms. As German forces pushed deeper into Stalingrad, they discovered that Soviet resistance refused to collapse. Under General Vasily Chuikov, the defenders adopted brutal close-quarters tactics. They stayed so close to German positions that German artillery and air power could no longer be used effectively without hitting their own men. Snipers hunted officers from ruined factories. Assault groups fought with rifles, grenades, knives, and even shovels inside stairwells and shattered apartments. One apartment building, later known as Pavlov's house, held out against repeated German attacks for nearly 2 months. The battle became so savage that German soldiers gave it a grim nickname, Rattenkrieg, the War of the Rats. Week after week, the Germans continued advancing, but every success came at a terrible cost. Entire battalions disappeared, capturing a single block. The Red October steel factory, the Barricadi factory, and the tractor factory changed hands repeatedly. Men who survived one attack often faced another within hours. Supplies became difficult to deliver. Food ran short. Ammunition had to be carried through constant shell fire. Yet neither side would retreat. Hitler ordered the Sixth Army to capture every inch of the city. Stalin responded with Order Number 227. Not one step back. Then came the moment that changed the war. November 19th, 1942. While German forces remained locked inside the city, the Soviet Union launched Operation Uranus. Instead of attacking the strongest German units, Soviet armies smashed through the weaker Romanian, Hungarian, and Italian forces guarding the flanks. Within days, 2 enormous Soviet spearheads met west of Stalingrad, surrounding more than 250,000 Axis troops. Suddenly, the hunters had become the hunted. German commanders begged Hitler for permission to break out while there was still time. The answer was no. Hermann Göring promised the Luftwaffe could supply the trapped army by air. It was an impossible promise. The Sixth Army needed hundreds of tons of supplies every day. German transport aircraft delivered only a fraction of that amount. As winter tightened its grip, soldiers inside the pocket began starving. Horses were slaughtered for food. Ammunition dwindled. Frostbite spread through the ranks. Medical supplies vanished. Thousands died without ever seeing another battle. Outside the encirclement, Field Marshal Erich von Manstein launched a desperate relief operation. His armored columns fought their way toward Stalingrad, coming within roughly 50 kilometers of the trapped army. Once again, German generals pleaded for permission to break out and link up with the rescue force. Once again, Hitler refused. The opportunity disappeared forever. By January 1943, the Sixth Army had ceased to exist as an effective fighting force. Buildings that had survived months of combat became makeshift hospitals filled with starving and freezing men. Soviet loudspeakers urged the Germans to surrender. Resistance grew weaker with every passing day. Finally, on January 31st, Field Marshal Friedrich Paulus surrendered the southern pocket. 2 days later, the remaining German forces laid down their weapons. Of the more than 250,000 Axis soldiers trapped in Stalingrad, only around 90,000 entered captivity, and fewer than 6,000 would eventually return home after the war. The cost of the battle was almost beyond imagination. Historians estimate that military and civilian casualties exceeded 2 million people. Entire Soviet divisions were destroyed and replaced. German armies that had once seemed unstoppable were shattered forever. The victory came at an enormous price for the Soviet Union, but it marked the turning point of the war in the East. From that moment onward, Germany would fight a defensive war it could never truly win. History remembers Normandy, the Battle of the Bulge, and Berlin. But Stalingrad stands above them all in both scale and sacrifice. It was more than a battle for a city. It was a battle of endurance, industry, leadership, and national survival. Hitler believed capturing Stalingrad would secure victory in the Soviet Union. Instead, it broke the backbone of his army and destroyed the myth of German invincibility. The road to Berlin did not begin in Germany. It began in the frozen ruins beside the Volga River, where an entire generation fought, suffered, and died for every street, every staircase, and every brick. If you had been a German commander after the Soviet encirclement, would you have obeyed Hitler's order to stay or attempted a breakout while there was still a chance? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe because in the next documentary, we'll explore another battle that changed the course of World War II forever.